Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much again for taking the time to join us for another one of Wellsprings Be Well Talks. Today's webinar is on self-compassion, self-talk, and the stories we hold, a narrative and mindful approach. Next slide, please. So we've got two wonderful speakers here with us today, and I'm very glad to be able to introduce both of them. First off, we have Paula Holmes-Rodman. So Paula is an interdisciplinary scholar whose work bridges anthropology, health humanities, and narrative-based medicine. Her innovative frameworks for story-centered care elevate marginalized voices, particularly neurodiverse patients navigating cancer and palliative care. She continues to collaborate with organizations such as Ovarian Cancer Canada, Alberta Health Services, Allcan Canada, and Wellspring to support equitable story-based care through workshops, guide, and webinar series. And we also have Mireille here with us today. So Mireille de Reland is an educator who develops and facilitates mindfulness-based programs for caregivers, individuals impacted by life-limiting illness, and community organizations. She integrates mindfulness, narrative practices, and compassion-based approaches to support emotional resilience and well-being. As a caregiver and volunteer, Mireille brings both personal insight and professional experience to help people navigate stress, uncertainty, and change with greater ease. So thank you both so much for being here today, and I will hand over the mic to you both.
Okay, thanks, Benita, and welcome everyone to our Be Well discussion today about self-talk, self-compassion, and the stories we hold. I'm Mireille de Reland, and I'm joined by my colleague Paula Holmes-Rodman. For this session, we'll explore how the way we speak to ourselves, especially during times of stress, of illness, or caregiving, shapes our experiences and the meaning we make of them. During the session, we'll share how approaches from narrative medicine and mindfulness can really help us understand and cultivate self-compassion by listening to our inner voice. Before we start exploring the topic, Paula and I would like to introduce ourselves and share a little bit more about our backgrounds, building on what Benita has already shared with you. So I'm a caregiver, an educator, and volunteer living in Toronto. I advocate for family caregivers through the Canadian Centre for Caregiving Excellence. My own experiences with illness, palliative care, family caregiving, and burnout have guided the work I now do today with community groups, organizations, individuals impacted by life-limiting illnesses, as well as caregivers. Over the years, I've seen firsthand how qualities like compassion, mindfulness, and creative expression have supported close family and friends, as well as clients during illness or end of life. And these practices can help us be present and make sense of what we're experiencing. Storytelling, for example, provides a way to be seen as a whole individual beyond our illness, diagnosis, or labeled role. And for me, narrative expression and mindfulness have also been a source of strength and healing, helping me process my own experience with illness as well as caregiving.
Thanks. Excuse me. Thanks, Ray. So I'm Paula, and I live on Vancouver Island. I'm an anthropologist. I'm a caregiver, both past and present. I'm a consultant, and I'm a writer in narrative, in oncology and palliative spaces, particularly where this intersects with pre-existing disabilities. So I'm an advocate for neurodivergent cancer patients and others who experience barriers to equitable cancer and palliative care. So I presented on caregiving, legacy, and storytelling, and offered expressive writing workshops through Ovarian Cancer Canada and Wellspring before. And I supported my sister, who is also autistic, through her ovarian cancer experience, from diagnosis to end of life. So based on my lived experiences with my sister, my ethnographic interviews over 4 years with her, and research on neurodiversity and cancer care, I created the self-advocacy guide for cancer patients on the autism spectrum in collaboration with Autism Canada. So Mireille and I met in the narrative medicine world, and together we combined our lived experiences, our education, and our research to create this innovative program called Narrative Prescriptions. And Narrative Prescriptions offers mindfulness and narrative medicine-based offerings for 3 specific audiences. For the people experiencing the life-limiting illnesses, including cancer, their family caregivers, and their professional caregivers. So today we're going to explore what happens when we apply some of these narrative and mindfulness principles to the issues of compassion, self-compassion, and self-talk. We'll share how these can affect the stories we carry with us through the experience of cancer and of caring for someone with cancer. We'll touch on how these ways of speaking to ourselves and about ourselves can either support or strain our well-being. And we'll be drawing on principles of narrative medicine and mindfulness and show how specific, accessible practices can help cultivate resilience and self-compassion and therefore support us in our illness or caregiving experiences.
To start, let's talk about compassion, self-compassion, and what these concepts actually are. So here we have the core components of compassion. Compassion is a relational quality, meaning it's how we relate to others. Compassion means to feel with someone. This is to share in their experience of difficulty or suffering. And it starts with noticing when others are suffering. And in response, we respond with warmth, kindness, and a genuine desire to help. This is what leads to what we call supportive action. Compassion also involves understanding and accepting that suffering and imperfection are universal parts of the human experience. We all face challenges and pain during our life. When compassion is present, it helps create a supportive environment, one where people feel truly cared for and valued, fostering connection and healing. So compassion is an emotional and active response, and it helps to build care and support around those in need. Now, based on what I've just shared about compassion, which is feeling with others and responding with kindness, just take a moment to reflect inward now. I invite you to quietly ask this question: how have I offered compassion to others recently? Your answer doesn't have to be a big gesture. Sometimes compassion shows up in simple, everyday actions. Maybe it's sending a quick text to check in on a friend, holding a door for a stranger, or offering a kind word or smile during a tough moment. So just take a few seconds to silently consider your own actions of compassion. Now that you've reflected on compassion and have an understanding of that concept, we're now going to take a look at the next step, which is developing self-compassion. We have to be able to be compassionate to then offer it to ourselves, and this is a core component of self-compassion. Self-compassion means treating yourself with the same kindness you would offer to a good friend or someone you care about in your life during difficult times. It means being warm and understanding with yourself when you face challenges or feelings of inadequacy. There are 3 key elements to self-compassion. The first one is showing yourself self-kindness rather than being self-critical. This means gently supporting yourself rather than being harsh or judgmental. We have to be kind to ourselves, not as a manipulation strategy to deny reality, which only actually makes things worse, but as a way to support ourselves through difficult experiences. The second element is recognizing common humanity. This is the understanding that we are all human. We all suffer and feel imperfect sometimes. You're not alone in these struggles. The third element is mindful awareness. This is about observing thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations with openness, not suppressing them or over-identifying with them. It's knowing when these thoughts, feelings, and sensations are there and giving them the space they need. Together, these three elements of self-compassion help us to respond to our own pain with care, friendliness, and acceptance, fostering resilience and emotional well-being. Now, let's each take a moment to reflect on self-compassion and ask yourself silently, how do I treat myself when I run into challenges in my life? Maybe think of a recent example, one that's not too difficult. Maybe ask yourself, do I pause to offer myself care and comfort in these moments when I need self-compassion? Or maybe it's easier to just push anything away. And remember, there's no right or wrong answer here. Just try and explore your response with kindness and openness.
Let's look a little more closely at what we mean by self-talk or our inner dialogue. So it begins with the premise that words have power. If the words we say to each other can build us up or tear us down, shouldn't we be paying at least as much attention to the words we say to ourselves, especially in challenging times? So self-talk is what we say to ourselves about ourselves. And no surprise, we can all sometimes be very harsh critics of ourselves and find ourselves saying negative things, statements we actually would never say, particularly out loud to a loved one. But what if we shift the tone and find ways to be more gentle, not in a falsely positive way, but in a kinder way? So it's natural to have big feelings or big fears during a cancer experience, whether you're the one experiencing cancer or the one caring for and loving and maybe losing someone with cancer. So we're not suggesting any kind of false positivity or what I call glitter speak. Rather, we're urging a gentle, loving, positive reframing of negative thoughts into more encouraging, soothing, and grounded messages to ourselves, with the knowledge that this kind of reframing or rescripting helps sustain inner peace and courage. So self-compassion and self-talk are not, or not necessarily, everything is fantastic and I'm doing amazing, although it can include elements of positive reframing. But neither is spending some time thinking about self-compassion and the way we speak to ourselves selfish or self-pitying or weak. Think instead of these concepts and practices as healthy ways to realistically sustain yourself, especially during what I call the in the midst times, in the midst of trying to get a diagnosis, in the midst of waiting for those test results, recovery from surgery or treatment, thinking about recurrence, approaching end of life, and all of the waiting time and the caregiving time in and around all of that time. So these small, even micro practices we'll be talking about today compound in a positive way and form this kind of internal resource we can draw upon during sustained difficult times of illness and caregiving. But an important caveat, it's really difficult to build capacity for self-compassion, self-talk, and frankly, any kind of self-care when you're already in it, when you're already in the midst. Like any healthy habit, consistency compounds and builds strength for our toughest times. And as Mireille will tell us next, it's actually during those toughest times when self-compassion matters the most.
So you might be thinking, okay, why does self-compassion really matter? And it's because it transforms how we relate to ourselves in moments of difficulty. So think of it as a moment of transformation and insight. Instead of harsh self-judgment, we open ourselves up to responding with kindness and understanding. The benefits of self-compassion are broad and impactful. Over the years, more and more research studies are looking at the benefits of compassion and self-compassion. There has also been research specifically looking at how compassion improves the quality of life of cancer patients and caregivers. Compassion towards ourselves and others reduces the stress response in our body. It lowers psychological and emotional distress. It cultivates resilience. It increases awareness of the mind-body connection and how our emotions are linked to that. It promotes self-care and self-kindness, and it counters that self-critical inner voice and deepens our sense of connection to others. So when we look at this, we also see it's associated with a reduction in depression and anxiety, perfectionism, feelings of shame, stress, and negative body image. And then we see an increase in overall life satisfaction when we practice compassion and self-compassion. There's also an increase in optimism and improvement in positive emotions like gratitude and joy. And then there's aspects like sleep quality that improves as well. And we even find that our creativity increases. So ultimately, cultivating self-compassion and compassion nurtures mental, emotional, and even physical health, helping us thrive through challenges that we experience with illness. So we've seen how self-compassion can support our emotional and physical well-being, helping us navigate challenges with greater ease and empathy. But cultivating self-compassion isn't always automatic, as Paula was talking to before, especially when we're struggling. And that's where mindfulness comes in. So let's take a closer look at what a mindful approach means and what we mean by this, and how it can help us be more present and caring with ourselves. The essence of mindfulness is an attentive, non-judgmental awareness of our present moment internal experience and our external experiences. When we mention a mindful approach, we invite ourselves to name and notice what is happening, what's happening within us at that moment. By naming and noticing, we become more aware and in tune with what our experience is, especially during challenging times. So this includes recognizing those moments of struggle when life feels hard or overwhelming. And it's doing so with kindness. It's noticing strong or difficult emotions and feelings, anything like anger, sadness, or anxiety, and we do it without pushing it away. It's also becoming aware of our sensations in the body, like tension, tightness, or discomfort that often accompanies emotional experiences. And this is how the mind-body connection works together. And then it's also tuning into our inner voice and our inner dialogue, which we're going to talk more about as well. It's those thoughts and self-talk running through our mind. And sometimes it's that rumination. By naming and noticing these experiences with some curiosity and openness, that's when we start to cultivate a mindful presence. And it helps us respond with greater clarity and calm instead of reacting automatically. By bringing mindful awareness to our experiences, it helps to lay the foundation so that self-compassion can take root.
So the second part, after the naming and the noticing, comes the response. the reframing or the rescripting. So we'll give you some specific examples shortly. But in general, we encourage you to consider reframing and rescripting, even restorying, with a profound sense of understanding and replacing more negative words or phrases of harsh judgment. It's also helpful to avoid over-identifying with your feelings. Over-identifying with feelings happens when we equate a feeling with an identity, saying, I am sad, instead of, I feel sad. It also happens when we think that a feeling controls our life or is a permanent state. When we attach excessive meaning to a feeling, or turn a brief, a temporal negative emotion into a broad statement about ourselves. Or we feel that a temporary emotion has a negative effect on unrelated areas of our lives. And then when we ruminate or we get stuck in a loop, thinking about past failures or current limitations. And I think we're all probably guilty of most of those things at some point in time. I know I am. So cultivating self-compassion, which is work, as we'll talk about, practicing mindfulness and shifting our language. I feel sad. I am having some anxiety today, and adding specificity and temporality and that little bit of distance can help. So sounds easy, right? We just flip the script. We just reframe and rescript mindfully. Yeah, not so fast. When we're going through cancer or we're supporting someone with cancer, how do you find the time and the energy, the space to show yourself some self-compassion? How do we do this in real life, in the midst of suffering, chaos, loss, physical and emotional pain, brain fog, exhaustion, joy, grief, the unknown, the worry, the waiting periods, all of that? We know this is difficult to do. So we want to share some practical and short approaches that can help you reframe and rescript and ultimately begin to carry some different stories. So we'll be sharing a few different practices with you. Some you'll connect with and some you won't. And that's just fine. And the resonance of these practices can change from day to day. But first, pause. We need a little space for the work to begin.
So before we can begin reframing and rescripting, we need to provide ourselves that space and clarity to do so. And this can be done with mini breaks, as I like to call them. These are pauses that are easily accessible. They can be as short as a minute. And the more often you practice taking in these mindful pauses or mini breaks for yourself, the more your brain adapts and strengthens itself to be more aware and mindful. And then you can better decide how to respond to situations rather than being reactionary. So view it like exercise for the brain and mind and body. So let's take a short mindful pause and self-compassion break for ourselves. There's a few steps to this exercise, and you can choose to do any one of these steps whenever you find it helpful to practice self-compassion. And even as we do this right now, you may find that there's certain steps that are easier for you or you connect with and would like to do again. So let's begin. I invite you to find a comfortable position for yourself where you are right now, one where you feel at ease. And you may want to gently close your eyes or just gaze downwards as we continue. You may also want to place a hand on your heart or your belly, and this helps to activate the soothe system as part of compassion. So start by just letting yourself take a calming breath in through the nose and then out. And this is a way to ground yourself in the present. Just taking a few of these calming breaths in and out. And you might feel some tension or a release as you breathe. Now I invite you to call to mind a recent moment when you encountered a difficulty or a struggle, or you felt overwhelmed or some maybe more challenging emotions. And choose something that's manageable. And as this comes to mind, just acknowledge your difficulty with friendliness. You may want to say something like, I'm feeling frustration or pain, or this is really hard. Anything at all, just to acknowledge this difficulty or emotion. And do so without trying to fix or resist or be critical of it. It's just mindful acceptance. And as you acknowledge this, notice what arises. Maybe you notice sensations in the body, some thoughts coming up, or additional feelings or emotions. And gently say to yourself, this is how it is right now. It's okay. This struggle is part of me being human and who I am. There's no judgment, just honest presence of your experience and giving any feelings space and holding them with care. We can also remind ourselves that we're not alone and that there's others experiencing something similar as part of our human experience. Many of us listening and tuning into this webinar have cancer that has touched our lives. So know that this thread connects us to others. And if you can, see if that connection can steady you or soothe you. And then you might want to offer yourself a phrase that feels supportive, such as, may I give myself what I need in this moment. May I be with myself with love and care. And let that feeling of self-compassion be both tender and strong. Just feeling it in your body even. And take in a soothing breath for yourself as you breathe. And then as you breathe out, we can come out of our mindful pause and open your eyes or gaze back to the screen. And know that when you encounter moments of difficulty or you feel stress or anxiety, just see if you can offer yourself a gesture of support. It could be a hand to your heart, a grounding phrase, or a compassionate phrase. All of these practices are available to you.
I always feel like you're speaking directly to me and my experience when you do that as a caregiver. Um, so thank you for that. And now I have to get to, now I have to speak again. So now that we're more grounded, more mindful about the work we're doing, we can begin to explore the profound impact that even small changes in the way we speak to ourselves about ourselves can have. So on the left of your screen, you're going to see some really self-critical phrases. Some may resonate, some may sting. And then we're going to see on the right-hand side of your screen some more self-compassionate, re-scripted versions. I'd like you to hear, just listen, to how it feels when I say the two sets of phrases out loud back to back. While our inner dialogue is, by definition, interior, sometimes it's helpful for us to say out loud the kinds of phrases many of us actually say to ourselves silently. I am failing versus I'm doing the best I can in a difficult time. I shouldn't feel this way versus it is okay to feel this way right now. I should be doing more versus I am doing what I can with the support I have and my abilities. Why can't I handle this better? Versus this is hard and I'm taking care of myself. I feel so drained versus I feel tired today and I will be gentle with myself. I am all alone and no one cares versus I can ask for help and support, even if it's hard. People want to help me. No one understands what I'm going through versus there are other people who are in similar situations. Think too about the story as a whole. You might be telling yourself again about yourself if you only ever said phrases from the first column. What if you replace them with phrases from the second? So let's hear those phrases again as complete stories about a person. And I'd like you to notice the difference. So story one, the self-critical story. I'm failing. I shouldn't feel this way. Why can't I handle this better? I feel so drained. I'm all alone and no one cares. No one understands what I'm going through. Let's rescript that. Story two, let's rescript it, restory it with self-compassion. I'm doing the best I can in a difficult time. It's okay to feel this way right now. I'm doing what I can with the support I have and my abilities. I feel tired today and I will be gentle with myself. This is hard and I'm taking care of myself. I can ask for help and support, even if it is hard. People want to help me. There are other people who are in similar situations. What if, just what if, we spoke to ourselves, even, or actually especially, in the quiet of our own minds, with the care and compassion of the second story? So I'd like to spend a moment thinking about the stories, the language, the phrases, the metaphors that we find out there in what I call cancer land. These are the t-shirts, the posters, the marketing materials, those well-meaning messages. I'm sure you've seen them. These are commonly used, well-publicized parts of the cancer discourse, and they're likely very familiar to you. So let these words land on you, and then we'll discuss them. Think about the whole stories they contain that they imply. The cancer journey. She is battling cancer. He lost his battle to cancer. She is winning her battle with cancer. I'm a survivor. What a cancer warrior you are. He's a victim of cancer. Caregiving is a sacrifice and an act of love. So it's not mine to say whether these phrases and the whole stories they imply are helpful or not, whether they encourage you, give you strength, suit you and your unique experience well, or not. Rather, I'm here to encourage you to approach these words and the stories they contain kind of like something you'd find on a rack in a store. It might be in fashion. Everyone else you know might be wearing it. You can try it on. It might make you feel fabulous, make you feel strong, powerful, suit your coloring just right. Or it might not fit quite right. And you can move on and keep searching for a better fitting garment. So I'm here to encourage you to grapple with curiosity with these public cancer discourses and see what, if any, parts of these stories fit best with your unique cancer or caregiving story. Take those useful parts with you, integrate them in your own narrative, and leave the rest on the rack for someone else. So we've talked about some micro practices, and Ray has given us this lovely mindfulness pause. And we'd like to leave you with a few more examples of narrative and mindfulness micro practices. These are these accessible practices you can do in the midst. So gratitude can be an integral part of self-compassion and gentler self-talk. And a short, regular practice can shift the whole story that we tell ourselves about ourselves. For me, specificity helps. And I also like to mix in the batter or sort of temper my gratitude with what I call grace and gold stars. So I have grace, gratitude, and gold stars. And it goes like this. Every evening, I do the following short practice. You can write it or you can say it out loud. And it's simple. I'm grateful for, and I name a thing, a specific thing. Maybe a funny exchange of cat memes with a friend that made me laugh. Then I give myself grace. Maybe for that one difficult conversation I didn't handle as well as I might have with a family member. Then I give myself that gold star. What did I do well today? Maybe I got a gold star for asking the nurse for a resource I needed. Bonus gratitude if I actually received the resource. So it's short, sweet, specific, and it's grounded in what actually happened that day. So it's not, I'm so grateful for my family and friends. That's lovely. But the more specific we are, the more that builds us capacity. So, and it's not super positive glitter speak. We can just be grateful for the cat meme. That's okay. That kind of gets us through the day a lot.
So similarly to Paula, I find that reflecting on gratitude really grounds me and provides perspective. So on difficult days, I find that this helps to ground me. And there's always something to be thankful for, whether it's, something as simple as not having to pay for medical care or just enjoying the coffee I'm having. So one practice I like is called Three Good Things, and this is another type of practice in addition to what Paula shared. And this is where I reflect at the end of the day on three positive things. And I like to take time to write them down as well as this helps to truly savor and feel that gratitude more deeply. I also practice another type of anchoring and compassion approach. And this is one that I find is very accessible, and it's the use of a compassionate image. Now, a compassionate image is a personal symbol or visual, and it's an image that embodies kindness, warmth, and support. And I can call upon this to remind myself of compassion in difficult moments. Some of us can be more visual, and so this is a great way of finding that self-compassion. And for me, that image is a swallowtail butterfly, one that is free, that's transformed from a caterpillar, and I think is very wise. So similarly, some people can find that maybe even an image or a color deeply resonates. So you might even just imagine a color that provides a sense of calmness and encouragement and compassion. So when choosing an image or color, just focus on what makes you feel safe and cared for and inspired, and something that really evokes that warmth and acceptance.
So I also use a number of writing practices. And again, like any healthy habit, the more regularly I do this, the better it works. So I have a small group of writers who meet every 2 weeks, and we write in response to poems, images, and prompts. So these are short timed sessions, or a maximum of like 10 minutes each. And then after which we share what we wrote and often marvel at the similar threads in our pieces, or maybe the really profoundly different directions where the same prompt or image each took us. But we have that brief community of creative, a little creative community of practice there. And I've also, particularly in the really of the worst of the in the midst times, I've used voice noting into my phone as a way to exorcise, get those big feelings, those big fears out of your body. Bonus points if you share it with an emotionally safe person. But even just getting it out of your body and onto the page can help. And sometimes this results in complete and total nonsense that I never read it again. I press the delete button. But the point is to get it out of the body and onto the page. And sometimes I end up reworking the phrases, the images, or the metaphors into a piece that can be shared or even published with others to better convey my experience. So finally, we'd like to leave you with some writing prompts that you can revisit maybe a bit later when you have a quiet moment. So these are excerpts from 3 poems. And we encourage you to sit with them, choose one that resonates with you, and see where the words or the images of the words take you. So you could take one of these and write for maybe 3 to 4 minutes. Set a timer on your phone and just let the words flow. So the first one is from Prescription for the Disillusioned by Rebecca Del Rio. And she writes, arrive curious. Without the armor of certainty, the plans and planned results of the life you've imagined. So where does that take you? We'll try this one. Quiet friend who has come so far, feel how your breathing makes more space around you. And that's from Let This Darkness Be a Bell Tower. And finally, from The Word by Tony Hogland, I love this one. Do you remember that time and light are kinds of love? So pick one of those, pick a poem, pick an image, set a timer, do this in your pajamas, just write for 3 minutes and see where it takes you.
And I've added the prompts in the chat if anyone wants to write them down as well. And obviously this will be in the recording that will be available afterwards. So as we wrap up our discussion, I just invite you to reflect on what we've explored together today. Oops, sorry, I'll just bring up the right slide again. There we go. And I want to thank Wellspring for having us share a bit more about compassion and self-compassion. And you know, just you can build on these skills and take the practices with you. And even small changes, as we mentioned, in how we treat ourselves can really lead to meaningful growth and a kind of acceptance to our experiences. And so we invite you to maybe try and take those into your day or in the next couple of days, just helping ourselves feel some calm and kindness and clarity as we try to practice compassion and self-compassion. So thank you for being here and for Wellness for providing this, Wellspring for providing this platform. And I'll turn it over to Benita now.
Thank you so much, both of you, for taking us through that. I found it was very grounding, and you provided such amazing strategies as well for folks to start practicing some ways to learn to be self-compassionate and speak kinder to themselves and think kinder thoughts as well. So thank you both for being here and for doing that as well.